As an athlete, going back to what I said, I was that person who was like, I'm going to punish myself in the gym. I'm going to do a hard workout. If it's just a soft workout, it's not going to be effective. But Joe, just as he tells the nation, is doing a little bit every day is key. It's the consistency. And it goes up to that point again, it shouldn't be a chore. We should want to do it. Taking my advice, which I'm doing there now. So I used to love playing basketball. So I actually went to Norway to see my brother, and I haven't played basketball with him for years. And we were playing basketball for an hour, and it didn't seem like an hour because it was fun, and I was moving things. I was listening to my body. So I feel that we need to kind of think of an activity that we used to do when we were young. We don't need to do it at the intensity that we used to do it, but if we just go through the motions of doing the drills, kind of like you with the tennis. So you can play some form of tennis, but you have to just know your capabilities, your limitations, and then slowly get to that stage of playing tennis again. I have that mindset as a therapist that I want to get people doing things that they think that they cannot do.
Doctor's Kitchen. Recipes, health, lifestyle. Look, I wanted to start because I love your book. I'm super impressed with it. I can so imagine tons of people coming and messaging you and telling you about how much this book has helped, because the way it's laid out is beautiful. Go through literally head to toe, all the other sort of elements that an osteopath and a therapist would want to navigate, given the time constraints that we tend to have, like eating habits and inflammation producing activity, stress, all those different wider elements that can certainly have an impact on the physical manifestation of problems. But I wanted to start with how you started your book, which is your personal journey. And you told this beautiful story of a little child with their nose pressed up against the TV screen watching Linford Christie in the 92 Olympics. And I just thought it was such a touching image. So I wonder if you could tell us about your journey from, having dreams of becoming an Olympic athlete to now helping athletes and a number of different people in different walks of life.
It's so weird, right? Because during the time, you never think about what you've achieved. So doing a book, you're just like, wow, did I actually do this? What, like it's been crazy. But Linford Christie was a hero of mine. Were you a big track and field fan back in the day?
I remember watching Linford Christie's the repeats, because I was 7 at the time, I think, when he reached that gold medal. So I remember seeing reruns of it, but not at the time.
How old are you, by the way?
I'm 37.
I'm 36, so we're kind of similar ages.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it? Nuts. That's right. No, but seriously, watching Linford Christie, Barcelona winning their gold, I was like, that is my mission. I need to be an athlete. And at the time, I didn't know that I had a talent until it was a sports day. I was in year 4, and my PE teacher said, James, this is really good. But only until I went to secondary school, because everyone wanted to be a football player. But it was a thing where they were like, wow, you've got talent. You need to take this seriously. So I was just glued, and I was just passionate, and this is what I wanted to do. But until the age of 16 years of age, that's when it all went bad. Because at that time, looking at me, and if I was to go back in time, I would say, why are you not stretching this way? Why are you not doing this? So I came up from the blocks, and I tore a muscle in my quad. And when you tear a muscle, there are different types of tears. So you can have a partial tear, a mid tear, a complete tear. And I had a complete tear of my muscle that was poorly managed, and that led to the muscle calcifying, which is very rare, but I was just unfortunate that happened. So I had surgery on my quad, and I don't think that I needed to have that, but I went down that route. And when I came back, there wasn't really that much help post-surgery. And every time I went back into training, the muscle will continue to tear. And that was a shame, but it was the best thing that happened to me, because it led me to the path of being an osteopath. Because I said to myself, I can't make it as an athlete and represent the country, being the Great Britain team. So I'm going to be an osteopath and go to the Olympic Games. So I just had that tunnel vision. I just said that I'm going to make this happen, and it happened.
Yeah.
And that's just a sign that anything's possible. Anything's possible if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this sort of drive you mentioned just there, like tunnel vision. I wonder
Yeah,
if, in part, this is sort of an attitude that you developed from your parents. You mentioned your dad, I think, was an engineer, and sort of they were very
yeah, civil
hardworking, sort of in
engineer.
terms of
Yeah,
very hardworking sort of work ethic that you in the household that you grew up in. Is that right?
yeah. Like, is it innate or is it learned? I like still don't know, but I really just admired how my parents worked very hard. So I'm the youngest of three boys. So they came over to this country to get an education. So my mum is still a quantity surveyor, and my dad sadly passed away in 2016. But he was a civil engineer, so he was living in India,
Mm.
doing their roads there, and I went over there, and it was amazing to see how he still worked hard. So growing up, I knew that there was pressure on me, but I loved that pressure. I loved that pressure because I wanted to make my parents proud. I wanted to do something where I can have a big impact and help as many people as possible. So I was
Mm.
lucky to find something that I would be passionate for, um, helping people to deal with their injuries or stresses in their bodies, on their bodies. So yeah,
I wonder if we could like dive into a bit more about that transition between you wanting to become an athlete, you realizing
yeah,
that that dream is not possible anymore, and then going
yeah.
into helping people and eventually becoming an osteopath and studying anatomy and physiology and all the rest of it, because that's not an easy transition for a lot of people to make. And
Yeah.
I imagine that would have taken a lot of soul searching for you.
Well, I didn't realize at the time, but the wiser James now, when down times happen, it's an opportunity. So you can reassess where you're going and you can think, okay, like this is happening for a reason. Um, like fast forward in the future, this will, like my story is going to help somebody going through a terrible time. So, so I learned valuable lessons that talent isn't enough. Um,
Mm.
Working with athletes now, you've got to have talent, but you've got to have your parents take you to a practice or a family member or somebody that can take you to a practice. Then once you've got that, you've got to be lucky that you get picked. So there's loads of factors. That's what I'm trying to like get across, like make it so that be a professional at anything. But when I had that failure and that acknowledgement that I wasn't going to make it as an athlete,
Mm.
um, I was just doing trial and errors. I had a massive brainstorm in my mind. I was thinking, what can I do now? I still want to work in sports. I want to have a job that is active. So I don't want to sit down at a desk and work hours. Um, so I was at college doing my A levels at the time. So I was thinking, do I want to be a doctor? Do I want to be a physiotherapist? Do I want to be an osteopath? The reason why I chose to be an osteopath because one of my friend's mothers was an osteopath and she lent me a couple of books. And I was just thinking, oh, I kind of like the sound of this because it's a holistic approach. You look at um, the whole person rather than just treating one aspect of the body. So that's what led me to think, oh, wow, if I had this when I was injured, maybe this would have helped me out. But I also liked it when you finish university that you can go straight into setting up your own business.
Mm.
Um, so I said, okay, yeah, I'm definitely doing this. This is going to work.
Yeah, because you talk about how you set up when you were 23, and I was just reflecting back on
Yeah,
my sort of my time. I would have been 24 at the same time you were 23 setting up your own business. And
yeah.
when I became a junior doctor, yeah, I had the
Which is
title of
tough,
being.
tough, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, it is
That's
tough.
tough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but but I kind of feel a lot more privileged these days because like when I was 24 and I was a junior doctor, I had a senior registrar above me, I had my consultant above that, I had all my other colleagues around me. You started out on your own, and
yeah,
you didn't have like tutors around you to ask questions. You had to do everything
yeah.
and set up the business as well. So that must have been pretty tough.
It was tough, and I was advised by my university or the tutors that London's going to be hard or Surrey. Like you need to move up north because it's highly saturated with not only osteopaths, physios, sports therapists. But once again, I just had that determination. Maybe it was the athlete in me.
Mm.
I just knew that I could achieve something big. Yeah, so I just said, well, I actually planned it in my second year. So my course was a 4-year course. So I came up with my business name, Rising Health, in my second year. I was thinking, okay, how am I going to get to the Olympics? Because at that time, it wasn't common for an osteopath to work for a sports team. It was dominated by physios. So I needed to like crack that way of thinking. So I kind of set out a plan saying I'm going to do a lot of volunteering work. I'm going to try and learn on the job as well.
Mm-hmm.
And my biggest rule when I came out, I said to the athletes, if it's rubbish, let me know because I need to like learn. So I just got dug in. I just did it. Just did it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
epic. And like, you know, not only did you have to overcome that, but in your book you talk about how I was going to say you used to have a stammer, but you describe how you never really get rid of a stammer. You manage your stammer, and you
Yeah.
know, clearly you're managing it very well now. I mean, what was the sort of what was the process for you in overcoming that?
Do you know something? It's been a journey. So I've had loads of mini journeys, but like amazing journeys that I love to like share, and I'm honoured to be on your podcast to like share this. So there was a time I was in year 2 when I first thought or said that I'm not speaking well here. Like why am I reading and I can't get the words out? There were words that I couldn't even say, like switch. I couldn't say that. So I struggled with R and S words. And at the time, my parents didn't know what to do. I did see a speech therapist at the time, and it was still bad. It was still there. But to answer your question, it just got better over time. I think the biggest thing that I had an issue with was the fear of stammering, because my stammer is a covert one. So the overt one is what like you would just notice it instantly, but a covert one is like an iceberg. So you aren't seeing the avoidance of words. So like in this conversation, I might say, okay, I can't say this word, so I'm going to think of a similar word that I can say in a sentence.
Right.
So talking was an exhausting experience every single time. But once again, going through this whole process of doing the book, I knew that I had to go and do podcasts. I knew I had to go on radio, go on TV shows. So I actually went on a speech therapy course because I wanted to know more about why people like me would have a stammer, because it's a form of disability that not that many people understand. And over a year, I met amazing people that knew exactly what I was going through, because I think that was hard to just fully express what I'm going through, because people would say, James, you are speaking fine. There's nothing wrong with you. But for the first time in my life, I was able to find people that understood. I didn't have to justify or explain why talking is hard every single time. So I was very good at hiding that I had a stammer, but I might have a bad day that I couldn't get any words out. So I'm really proud that I'm even doing this, because the old James would have be like, I'm not doing that. I'm just going to be in the corner there, work hard, but like every chance I had to do a public speaking, a podcast, I would not do it because I was worried that I would stammer. And now there was no fear. There was no fear. It is me. If I stammer, I stammer. But it led me to be a patron of the charity. You know, so
Amazing.
like it's amazing when you put pressure on yourself to like write a book and other opportunities line up where you can help even more people that struggle what you went through back in the day. So yeah, that's my story, eh?
That's amazing. No, it's
Yeah,
my pleasure to have you on the pod and be a very small part in that journey that you're going through, man. So yeah, no,
amazing.
it's a massive privilege. I wonder if we could start by talking about pain.
Yeah,
I've spoken to a few people on the pod on the past about pain, anaesthetists, people who take a holistic approach, pain specialists. We had Deepak Ravindran on the pod a few months ago. Um, and
amazing.
obviously pain is a big part of why people would come and see you. And I guess, you have to explain and conceptualize pain for your patient so you can understand a bit more about where their sort of hindrances are, what the locale and the diagnosis is, as well as like how they can sort of like process pain and go through that journey. So how do you explain pain to people, and how do you explain how they should be monitoring it as a means to monitor success and progress?
So I think the biggest thing is that the person that's trying to express their pain, they are their expert of their own pain. And we need to show that respect to the people, because there's always the normal story that it's all in your head, that a scan has said that there's no issues there. So surely what you're feeling doesn't exist. So just how love is a language, pain is a language, and there's different layers, there's different characteristics to what pain is. So in the book, and just in general in private practice, I listen to the patient. Because people just want to be listened, but I actually educate them to why they are feeling pain. And like in my book, I do talk about the different types of pain. So I talk about nociceptive pain. I talk about neuropathic pain. I talk about emotional pain. Because even a couple of years ago, people didn't think there was such a thing as emotional pain. But it does. But it does exist, and it has a massive impact on the body. So in the book, I do teach people that you need to give a descriptive version of pain and be prepped. So if you're going to go and see a GP, go and see an osteopath, such as myself, you need to have different layers to your pain. So, for example, I tell them to use a pain scale. So I might say, okay, so my shoulder is a 2 out of 10 in my pain, in terms of pain, and it's a deep pain. It's not superficial, but it's deep, and it hurts when I move my arm up. Because loads of like the general public would just say, yeah, I've got pain in my shoulder. And they just go and see somebody. And sometimes the medical person might not want to find out more about their pain. So they might just give them a general answer to the pain. So once you like give them different ways of explaining pain, that can make the medical person a good problem solver and say, okay, maybe it's only a muscle pain because it only hurts when you try and move it. Or maybe, okay, if it's a constant pain and you turn your neck to the left and right, maybe there's something else going on. Maybe it's not only your shoulder, it's a muscle that links your neck to your shoulder. So pain needs to be talked about in a different way. So you can't be too simplistic about pain if you want to find out the correct diagnosis.
Yeah. I love that sort of that analogy of pain being almost like pain being your friend. I think you say that in the book as well, about how it's actually a guiding principle. It should be it's a thing that reports something that is not wrong. It's something that reports to you that something's going wrong and that you need to do something about it. And also, it's a very, very common scenario where a scan is normal, the investigations are normal, the blood works and everything is normal, but there's still pain. That doesn't necessarily mean that's automatically in your head, so to speak. There's definitely something that can be done about that. And I guess that's probably the point in which many people come and see you. Am I right in thinking that, or is it a lot earlier along in someone's journey?
Both really, and that's why I love my job, because you're trying to solve the case. And this is why I wrote a book again, because like when I worked heavily in private practice, just in one room, seeing as many people as I could in a day, you're only seeing them in the room. So I actually like to go to their houses or like have evidence. So they might take a picture of how they sit down at a desk, or like, it sounds creepy when you say this, but getting their partner to take a picture of them sleeping in bed, because you're kind of thinking, okay, there's only like you've got a small pillow and you're sleeping on your side, so that's why you've got neck pain, because your neck is constantly being activated. It's contracting throughout the night, so that like we have sold the case here change your pillow, and the neck pain will go away. So yeah, it's just like it's never a general answer because everyone is unique. Of course, there are principles that we have to follow to like get okay, is it a nerve issue because you've lost power in your arm or it's feeling numb? So there's that general side, but it's finding out why and how you can get you out from this pain, because many people feel that they might go and see somebody and that person says that there's nothing what we cannot do. Like, this is it. Like, this is you're going to be with this pain for the rest of your life. That might be true, but there's a difference between managing pain as well as having a chance where you can take away the pain. So once again, it's the language how both of us tell our patients, and does that language or that feedback in the correct manner can ease somebody and say that, okay, I'm at peace now. I know exactly what's going on. But most people don't know what's going on, and that's makes them even more stressed. And they can be doing something that could be aggravating the pain. So that's my journey now, that I want to help as many people to know how their bodies work, and if they get a pain, what they can do, or to catch it quick so it doesn't linger.
Yeah.
Because that's a common theme. People might have a 1 out of 10 pain on their back, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm too busy. It's nothing serious." Then that pain slowly creeps up, and then all of a sudden, it's a 9 out of 10. They've got a disc pain, and they've got to take time off work, and then they get stressed. Oh no, how can I take time off work because I've got to pay the bills? So it's just gets worse and worse.
Yeah. It's certainly something that I see fairly often as well. That small pain that compounds, and people tend not to present until a lot later on. By which time, you could have made a lot more progress and prevented a lot of issues down the line. I mean, I'm certainly guilty of that myself. I've had pain in my back.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. Yeah. I've had back pain since I was 6. I used to be a keen tennis player when I was at secondary school. Yeah, I loved it. It was
a Pete Sampras, yeah.
No.
A Pete Sampras.
No. I'm not going to be one of your clients. Don't worry. Not at that level. No,
Man, you've got me thinking now. You got me thinking.
I had pain when I was a kid. I think it was my serve was off, and it was just the way my body, the flow and the action stuff, and I never really fixed it. And I just sort of, I was a teenager, quite strong-minded, and probably a nightmare for my coach. But I had to quit because of persistent pain, and I've been able to manage my pain for many years now. And I know kind of what twinges it and all the rest of it. But, had I paid a bit more attention to it, maybe I could have been the next Pete Sampras, who knows? But probably not.
You never know.
But yeah, you never know. But I wonder if we could start with back pain, not just for my benefit, but largely because, it's the majority of what you see. It's a large proportion of what primary care physicians see in the UK. And although, we can't be specific in terms of the advice that we can give, because everyone's condition is going to be unique, just like you were saying, like a detective. It could be down to the way you're sleeping. It could be down to your environment at work, or how you're walking, or your shoes and all the rest of it. What are the sort of general principles that you feel people would benefit from when it comes to preventing back pain, or even managing back pain if it's chronic?
So the pattern that I've seen is that we're doing too much in terms of sitting down. We aren't active anymore. And that sounds weird, saying too much of not doing nothing, but that inactivity just tenses our muscles, and then that leads to our joints in our spine, and that leads to the disc. So we have to try and be as active as possible, because our ancestors up above will be tutting and be thinking, why are you not moving? Because you have to think that we've got our phones, we are looking down, and that has a massive effect, not only on our necks, but on our mid back. And if our mid back gets tight, our lower back gets tight. But you will laugh at me, but the reason why most people get lower back pain is because our bums are tight. So if we loosen our bums, it makes our lower back better. And there is always a war between our hips not moving right. If our hips are not moving right, that means that our lower back's going to get tight. So it's once again, it's that 1 out of 10, and we're slowly seizing up, and then all of a sudden, bang, we have got our, like, we are too stiff and we can't move, and we get this coming out, pressing on a nerve. That's a common thing. There are so many people, because everyone uses this term, and you will laugh at this as well. I'm sure that you've seen it. A slip disc. That term has been used so many times. Every time someone has pain, it's either they have sciatica or they have a slip disc. But not many people know that sciatica is really bad. It's one of the worst pains because you get that shooting pain down your leg. Not many people know that it's actually a nerve being pressed on. So they might have a muscle ache in the lower back, but they say, "Oh, I've got sciatica. I read on a Google article or I searched it, and it's definitely that." So it goes back to that point that we need to educate people that it can maybe start off with a muscle type of tightness due to our posture throughout the day. And that can, like, if we don't attend to it, it will cause other structures within the back to lose their function. And if we don't attend to that would lead to serious injuries, being a disc pressing on a nerve, and then going to see a doctor or a surgeon saying that you like need to have some, like, your disc out, or to like have a surgery to take pressure off the nerve. But the most common thing, to answer your question better, posture. Posture's the biggest things. We are a nation where our posture is not good, and we don't stretch because we like to say that we are too busy. So I'm praying, if people are listening to this podcast or they read my book, you've got to start to be active. You've got to start to stretch to make sure that your posture is not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's 3 key things there that I've pulled out. So inactivity, so making sure that we're moving as regularly as possible.
Yes.
Which is quite hard to do, I guess, for some people in certain work environments. But I think a lot more people are becoming a bit more knowledgeable about why they need to be moving. Would you say like once every hour or so, or like how would you put some meat on those bones?
So everyone tries to place stretching or being active like with not what they do on a daily basis, because you're going to think our ancestors will be out there hunting, moving around to like get their food or working. So I'm trying to tell people that you can multitask. So we're sitting down now, so I can be rubbing my hand, or I can be placing my hand on the back of my neck as we're talking, or I can just get up all of a sudden and start to like stretch and then sit back down. So there's no so we shouldn't allocate time and say that, oh, for this hour, I am going to do 20 minutes, because it might not happen because we're all busy. So it can just be, if you feel a slight tightness, just stand up and stretch and then sit back down. So you can do that as many times within the day. So we actually should bring joy to do it, because everyone sees it as a chore. Oh no, I've got to do a stretch. I don't want to do it because I don't have time. But we have to make it a habit when it actually makes us have a breather and we feel good about it, and we're taking that time for ourselves, because we only have one body and it needs nurturing. You look at our phones, our iPads, our MacBooks, our laptops, we give it an update when we can. Why don't we do that for our bodies? And we can just have those mini updates. It can even be like every minute we can do something, but everyone's different. So we have to go on a journey where it's fun and do a trial and error and say, okay, if I try and stretch out once an hour, because that's all I can do for this moment of time, is it actually going to make me concentrate better at work? Is it going to make me to iron more if I stay at home? I like ironing clothes. Who likes ironing clothes? But that's a bad example. So I want to take people on a journey to try and solve the case for themselves with the guidance from me and from anyone that wants to help them.
Absolutely, and I
Yeah,
think I resonate with that a lot. You know, bringing joy to those movements and actually what it can bring you, rather than it just being something that you have to do. Um,
yeah.
on that note, so tight buttocks. So how do we loosen our bums?
Oh, so there's many ways. There's many ways to loosen the bum. So there's a foam roller, because many people don't know how to use a foam roller.
Mm,
So many people punish themselves using it. So you don't need to put all your weight through the foam roller, because that's going to hurt.
mm,
But I often tell people that you can literally sit on the foam roller with one hand backwards. So you're putting all your weight on your hand, and you're like taking your time to put the like pressure that you want to put on the body to like loosen up the bum. But even doing that on a daily basis is very, very, very good. Um, there are so many gadgets out there, so you can have a massage gun. Massage guns work really, really well. So you can do it yourself, or you can get a friend or a family member to like, help you out and do that. Or you can stretch. So there's simple stretches on a mat on the floor that you can do. So crossing one leg over the other if you're lying on your back is very effective. Simple but effective.
yeah, yeah. That I
Yeah.
love my foam roller. I've got the foam roller with little spiky bits in it. Are there
Oh,
particular foam
nice.
rollers that you think are better than others, or like just whatever you
Well,
like,
that
really?
tells me a lot about you if you like the spikiness on the yeah. That it makes me think about things now. That you're a real deal. See, a tennis player, you like the spikiness on the on the front rollers. It doesn't really matter, really. So you can have it hard or you can have it soft.
Uh-huh.
Like both of them will like work. It's just making sure that you have the like the even out of weight
Hmm.
on you. So you have to make sure that you don't put all your weight on your bum, because that might hurt. So you use your hands. Is it making sense a bit?
Yeah, yeah,
Is that
yeah,
making
definitely.
yeah?
So like
So
when it, like it's almost like grading how much weight you can put on your buttocks when you're using the foam
exactly.
roller for the first time. Because
Yeah.
I've got to the point now where I can almost put almost all my weight on it, depending on like what exercise I've done that week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find it like absolutely
Listen,
crucial.
I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited now. We have to make you a tennis player now. Well, I am not good at tennis. I can't serve to like save my life, but I've got a good backhand. So we definitely have to give it a go.
Sure.
But yeah, definitely. But it gets to that point that it's trial and errors. So you can try a hard foam roller, and you can try one with like having spikes on it. But it's finding what works for yourself, because because I don't want to give people a concrete plan, because it'd be like,
Mm,
oh, it's like being back at school. Like there's no way that I can do this every single day. So like it's first of all telling yourself to not be hard on yourself. That you have to do something that works for like you, because that's what living's about. You have to do like, of course, it's good to like eat well, to like move around, do all these healthy things, but it has to be a sustainable thing that works for like you, because everyone's different. Because you might have a stressful job, and like if you're doing something that might work for like someone else, it might not work for like
mm.
you. You know. So hopefully, in the book, I'm telling people that I've got that across
Yeah,
very
yeah, no,
well.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
posture. So posture is really important.
Oh yeah,
Particularly,
definitely.
you know, certain different people wear different kinds of shoes. They hold themselves in a different way. They have different muscle architecture. Some people have bulkier backs. Some people have like smaller
Yeah.
chests. You know, there's going to be a massive variety in terms of like how people's posture is at the start. Like what are the general principles that you sort of talk to your clients about with regards to maintaining good and what even is good posture?
That's another thing. Again, it's like we're all different in our own ways. So I was very fortunate that I've been around so many amazing athletes. I didn't actually treat Usain Bolt, but I was around his therapist, and I did help give them wisdom if they needed it. But Usain Bolt had one hip higher than the other, so that pelvises were out of sync. And for many years, this is through speaking to his agent, speaking to him, and speaking to the therapist. There were so many therapists that tried to change that, but his function was to run fast. He needs to run a fast from A to B and get all of the world records, of course. So it's about functionally working instead of trying to change everything, because that can make people to get even more injured and to be in pain. So there's not a perfect specimen out there, if that makes sense. So it's about finding out what works for us, rather than just saying that it's a textbook answer every single time. So you're going to mix the science, the anatomy, all of the stuff that we have learned from university with the art and common sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
And
no,
that rhymed.
absolutely. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it definitely does. Yeah, absolutely. And so, how do you assess someone's posture when they come for the first time? Because I guess if you're treating someone like Usain Bolt, he's got a clear motive to maintain sort of speed, and that means that his posture is going to be very different. But perhaps for the average person that isn't an athlete or doesn't have aspirations to perform a particular movement fast. What are the general things that could keep us in better physical health?
So it's that Sherlock Holmes hat on again. So when I first meet a patient, I'm assessing them already. I'm seeing the way how they speak, because many people are guarded. It might be a confidence issue, so they don't want to look up and be proud. They want to keep the chin down because they don't want to get eye contact at first. Like if you don't know that person, people might be shy. So it's the first contact or the first impressions. I'm looking at, okay, how is the gait when they walk? When they shake the hands, are the shoulders rolled in? So it's all that. But as an osteopath, and I'm sure it's the same thing with you, I would assess the back view, the front view, and the side aspect. So I'm trying to see if the shoulders are rolled in, because that's a common thing. People are looking down at their phones, so they form that posture of the shoulders rolled in, and not that many people don't understand that can cause problems with our organs. So when I say problems, it's not going to show up on a scan or a test, but you are going to start to be an upper rib breather, so you're not going to be using your diaphragm, because many people, with stress, many people are upper rib breathers, or they are using, because many people do not know that there are muscles here at the front of your neck that help you to breathe, but they are secondary muscles to the main muscle being the diaphragm. And the diaphragm, if you look at the bird's eye view of a diaphragm, there are holes for your main vein and your main artery. So if that's tense because it's not being used, it can affect how the blood moves from the upper part of your body to the lower part of your body. So posture, it's not only the muscle side or the joint side. It's it's going back to that point that we are one as a body. So it's going to affect other structures in the body, if that makes sense. So the general thing is that I try and educate people to try and open up the chest and get everything functionally moving well. And I think that's the job of an osteopath, is assisting through touch and changing things in one's life to optimize the systems in your body.
And I think that's what's quite unique about osteopathy and other holistic practitioners. You're not just looking at the mechanics of the body, you're also asking questions about and observing what other elements it could be having an impact on. And what you just eloquently described there about how it can impact other organs, your abdomen, the way in which you breathe. This can have tangible impacts on things like blood pressure, stress levels, your digestive system, whether you're bloated, constipated. Everything is connected within this. And I'm sure, you've probably had instances where you have done things to correct someone's posture, which has had an impact on their stress levels, which has probably had an impact on whatever abdominal complaints that perhaps, that they weren't aware were connected.
You are so right. And that makes you a good doctor. I haven't seen you in person to get advice, but you just know that you know what you're doing, and you've got an open mind. I just feel that stress is a silent killer. And it makes me very sad because many people do not see it. And it goes back to that point again. It can creep up on you. And you will think that I'm crazy, but I do ice baths every day. I do saunas. Like, I have changed my way of thinking that if I work hard, I need to have a reset every single day.
Mm,
And everyone needs it. So everyone puts so much stress, and stress is good, just like pain. It's there for a reason because it gets us to do things, but too much of it, too much of good stress is bad. Too much of bad stress is of course bad. So we need to have something that balances us out, because if we're in too much fight and flight in
mm,
the day, it can affect us in terms of, it might make us bloated. It might cause us to have diabetes along the line, high blood pressure, all these things. Of course, I'm not saying that's the main reason why, but it can be a factor that can lead
mm,
to that point. So we need to take care of ourselves. We don't need to take a step backwards and realize what's really important.
mm.
And of
Do
course,
you?
times are hard. There's so much worries out there, but
Yeah,
but but we can spare time on ourselves.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
even if
yeah,
it's just 30 seconds, going outside, looking at the stars, having a glass of water, be like, wow, that's
yeah.
a reset in a way.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit hippie, but it's a reset.
No, I'm totally about it. Like I have
Yeah,
a routine in the morning. I wake up pretty early. I meditate. I make sure I do my
amazing.
formal meditation, but then I also go outside, expose myself to light. I'll have my coffee outside, and I try to remove all sort of distractions. So my phone's not with me. I don't have my AirPods in. I'm just sort of immersing myself in boredom, because I think we
Yeah,
need boredom as a stimuli for creative energy, because it's like shower thoughts. The reason why you have thoughts in the shower is because you're
yeah,
doing a mundane activity and your brain switched off, but actually what's happening is you're tapping into that creative side of your brain that is really, really important,
yeah,
and we're losing it because we're constantly being entertained, or we're constantly consuming, or we're constantly working. So I totally agree with you. Even if it is for 30 to
yeah,
60 seconds a day, you should immerse
yeah.
yourself in something that makes you happy.
Is that a cold shower or a warm shower or a hot shower?
So
That is the
I've done,
question.
yeah, I've done ice baths in
Yeah,
the past, right? I've done it probably three
yeah,
four times, but I feel for me, ice baths,
yeah,
I feel fantastic for the rest of the day, but at day two
yeah,
or day three, I have almost like a slump in my
yeah.
cortisol levels, and I get ill. So I start with a fever, and
Bless you.
that's happened every
Really?
time with me. But I do stress myself the opposite way. So I love sauna, absolutely love sauna.
Oh, nice.
Try and
Yeah,
go for that as much as possible. I can do a cold shower, but a cold bath for me, like I will probably try it again at some point. But for
yeah,
my experience, hasn't been as positive as those people, which is annoying because I love the feeling of an
yeah.
ice bath afterwards. It's amazing.
But the thing is, even you saying that, you've done trial and error, and you found something that works for you. So you've got a system
Mm.
that gets you right, that gets you fully operating, and that's good to hear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love
Yeah,
it. I think it's really important. And so I was going to ask. So when you see a patient for the first time, and you're taking history, you're asking them about pain, you're asking the sort of qualifying questions about the nature of the pain, the chronicity, all the other elements. Are you also asking them about things like their bowel habits? Are you observing how they breathe? Are you
yeah,
looking at like what kind of shoes they're wearing, or like how they're holding? Are you looking at those kind of things as well?
yeah. I'm looking at everything now because I'm a completely different therapist to when I first went out into the real world. So I'm limited in how many people I see, and I actually go to people's houses. So I'm not in a
Mm,
rush.
mm,
I'm there, and we're sitting down. We're talking about what they want to achieve with this, but it's so sad that many people feel that it's normal to feel sluggish or to feel tight, because for, like, as a nation again, that's a norm.
mm,
So it's not only dealing with their issues. I'm trying to see why this has occurred and making sure that there's a prevention element into the treatment. So they leave there having some answers to why they were in pain, being educated, that have helped them to relieve them of their pain. But most importantly, like, and this is a common thing, patients will like say, "Oh, I didn't know that I had knee pain, or it was tight there." And does that mean that's linked to me having a quad issue or a lower back issue? So they've started that journey, and then I might get a text later saying, "Oh, I've just done this, and it's made this better." Like, you were definitely right. This is the main reason why I was having pain.
Mm.
And then I would go around their house, and they will sit down where they normally sit down, and I just assess and see, okay, like, this is good, but this is bad, So it's everything. It's everything.
Mm.
And so how I first started out, I would normally see someone for like 40 minutes to an hour, but I don't look at the time. So there's times that I might be with someone for 3 or 4 hours,
Oh
you
wow.
know, because I'm looking at everything. So it might be like a long session, but I like leave there and they're satisfied, and they're like saying, "Wow, you actually emphasized with me on what I was going through,
Mm.
and I'm better off now. Thank you very much." That's what gives me a kick, like
Yeah.
to like get up in the morning, because I'm going to help someone out. But I wish I could help more people, but I need to have a balance in my life. So I'm
Yeah.
taking my advice, having a family, being married. Also, oh, hold on, you got married a
I
couple of weeks
did.
ago.
Yeah. I got married very
Well,
recently. Yeah. Literally like 4 weeks ago.
congratulations, by the
Thank
way.
you. Thanks so much. I
Congratulations.
appreciate that,
Yeah.
man. Starting that journey
Oh no.
myself.
Oh boy. Yeah, I've been married for 10 years now. 10 years. I don't know how
Congrats.
it's
That's
happened.
awesome.
Oh boy.
That's
Oh boy.
fab. So, I guess from the listener's point of view, let's say, I'm in my late 30s, going to 40s and stuff. I want to maintain sort
Yeah.
of the vitality, the sort of structure of my body. I want to make sure my joints are supple. I want to do all these things. I might do a bit of sauna. I might do a bit of ice bathing. I work out regularly. What are the other sort of tools I should really be thinking about to maintain the suppleness of my joints, to make sure that I'm going to be active and pain-free in my 70s, 80s, 90s? Because, very much like cardiovascular disease, we need to be thinking about prevention, like at this time in our lives right now. So what are the kind of
Yeah.
things that you think we should be thinking about in terms of specific exercises that we should really have in our toolbox?
So first of all, it goes up to the point that we shouldn't be hard on ourselves. Like, a little bit of something on a daily basis is more effective than punishing ourselves in a gym for an hour. Because, like, I tell you this, the top athletes in the world that are good at their crafts as they age, it's all about the recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone has talent at one stage, but it's how somebody feels fresh in competing, and it's the mindset.
Mm.
So, as I said, we have talked about joy. It's simply down to living each day as it goes, listening to our body, because as we age, we are wiser, or hopefully we are.
Yeah.
So it's spending our time having common sense. So some of these Olympic athletes that won gold medals and things, the reason why they were good and they had longevity is they might wake up in the morning and be like, something doesn't feel right in my body, so I'm not going to do the hard session that was planned. I am going to wait a couple of days and then I'll do it then. So that's smart training. So I think that's the message that I want to get across. Train smart. It's not about like having a hard session and then feeling the pain afterwards, because we are always changing. But it's having a good network of people around us. I think that's another factor as well. So one of them is Joe Wicks. So I'm very good at doing the recovery and making time for myself, but I need to get into the gym. Because as an athlete, going back to what I said, I was that person who was like, I'm going to punish myself in the gym. I'm going to do a hard workout. If it's just a soft workout, it's not going to be effective.
Mm.
But Joe, just as he tells the nation, is doing a little bit every day is key. It's the consistency, because you're not doing it to only lose weight. You're doing it to lift your mood and to feel good. And it goes up to that point again. It shouldn't be a chore. We should want to do it. So like taking my advice, which I'm doing there now. So I used to love playing basketball. So I actually went to Norway to see my brother, and I haven't played basketball with him for years. And we were playing basketball for an hour. And it didn't seem like an hour because it was fun. It was joy. And I was moving things. I was listening to my body. So I feel that we need to kind of think of an activity that we used to do when we were young. And we don't need to do it at the intensity that we used to like do it. But if we just go through the motions of doing the drills, kind of like you with the tennis, like, so you can play some form of tennis, but you have to just know your capabilities, your limitations, and then slowly get to that stage of playing tennis again, to that level that you once did. Because I have that mindset as a therapist that I want to get people doing things that they think that they cannot do. Kind of like me talking. I thought that I would never be able to, honestly, ever to go and do a public speaking or go on national TV and talk, but I'm living proof that it's possible.
Yeah.
So it's just basically finding something that works for you, but doing small dosages of it. I think that as we age, we need to do dosages rather than just trying to do a marathon without having that gradual build up of exercises of those runs.
Yeah, I think that's super sound advice. And what one of the things I find interesting about the book was sleeping positions. Because my partner always comments on how weird my sleeping position is. So I sleep on my back, but I actually don't use a pillow because I find that if I use any pillow, even a shallow pillow, it kind of just pushes my neck a bit too forward, and I prefer a sort of neutral position. Am I putting myself at risk for a neck injury if I'm not using a pillow, or?
So the sleeping topic is such a hard topic, just like pain. So because you can delve into many ways. But my way of fixing it that would always work, I always tell, because I want you to do this, I always tell people to take a picture. Take a picture of how you actually sleep, because people always say, what is the best pillow? What is the best mattress? What is the best time to sleep? But we're all different. But if you take a picture of you not having a pillow on your back, then I can see how your spine is sitting, how your neck is, but I can give you a better answer. So that's better doing that than giving a general answer. Gotcha. Because over the years, we're all different and unique in our own ways. So something that might work for you might not work for me, because and it's never a textbook answer, because I know that my methods, even in the general terms that I put in the book, many therapists might not agree with what I put down. But this is what I've seen over the years. But as I said, it's a complex case because we're different. You might be sitting down 8 hours a day, and then you want to go to that bed, and that's why it might be different. That you on your back with no pillow will work only for you, because no one is Dr. Rupee.
Yeah.
Only you are,
I'm going to tell my partner that. No one, you're not Dr. Rupee. Yeah. So you can't tell me
it works for me. I'm Dr. Rupee. But I want that picture. I want that picture so I can see.
I'll send you that picture for sure. I'll definitely send it to you. You can critique it.
But not in a creepy way. Sorry if I'm coming across creepy.
It's all good. It's all good. You also talk a bit about therapies in the book. Certain therapies that you entertain a bit more of and stuff, and it's a big range of things, everything from acupuncture, acupressure, cupping, dry needling. There's obviously the self massage as well. What kind of techniques do you sort of lean toward, and others that you think, perhaps then they're not as useful, but they might have some sort of benefit for the specific patient?
See, this is why I love my job, because I have a toolkit of different skills. So I'm not a finished article. I am an experienced therapist, and I've learnt things over the years, and I was very fortunate to travel across the whole world. For example, I went to Thailand, where I learnt to use bamboo cupping, to use Tok Sen. So it's just basically hammer therapy. So you're hammering different acupressure points. So I've got all these tools, but the first tool that I use is my hands, because I assess. So it's a diagnostic tool. As I'm treating, I'm sensing, okay, you're tight in this muscle, or someone might be very sensitive to that touch. So I might put acupuncture needles in. for a couple of minutes, take it out, and then use my hands again. And then the patient might notice, oh, it's feeling a lot better. Isn't that crazy how these needles work, So it's so having these tools, but knowing when to use it. So it's the dosage of the therapy. And massage in itself is an art. There are different ways how to massage somebody. But just the power of touch. The power of touch. When you place your hands on someone and someone is nervous, placing your hands on them, you have to give them comfort and tell them that these hands you can trust, that I'm here to help. Because even that, because can you imagine if I'm grabbing your neck and I'll start shaking, you're going to naturally tense up. You're going to be thinking, who is this guy? Is he confident? So you need that confidence for your hands, and they're emphasizing that I'm here to help. I understand. I think that's the number one tool. But that's the world of therapy is amazing, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of years because I want to learn more. I want to learn more because there's different ways to help. But my way of thinking is that I want to help with causing less pain, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there's times that you have to go hard on a muscle, especially with athletes. They don't care. You know what I mean? They would be all macho saying, "Yeah, I like a hard massage," and then you're in there and you're like, get off me! No, so it's finding that dosage of knowing when to go hard and when to be light. But there's times I'm sure that you must have gone to a spa and then someone's literally tickling you like a feather. You're thinking, is this actually helping? But that's a form of therapy. Or you might get someone that's got hard elbows going in. I'm going to cause pain. But what I'm trying to get across is that when you place your hands as a therapist, you need to understand the right amount of pressure you need for that person. Because someone might be sensitive, so you need to know what tools to use at that time. And that's the beauty of my job. It's never the same way of treating, even for the same person. There might be a different approach, especially for players. So a Pete Sampras player, for example, if they've got the Wimbledon final, you aren't going to be going hard on them. You are going to be working with the muscles, activating and getting them ready for them to win that title. But if they've had a hard training session and they've got a couple of days off, maybe that's time to let loose, going hard, because you know that they're going to recover in time for their next session in a couple of days.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think even the touch and the confidence of a therapist can be healing in itself. I've had a friend of mine, Dr. David Hamilton. He talks a lot about complementary therapies, things like Reiki, and explains them through the lens of science. And he's really convinced me on the benefits of all these different practices. And it can't just be measured by the pressure that you're putting down on the person. It can, there's other benefits to it as well. I was gonna ask, if you look at the arc of your career, over the last 15 years or so, you've reached so many highs. You've got your book out now. I'm sure it's going to be an incredible resource for a lot of people. You've treated athletes, people who you've looked up to, actresses. I mean, you've got Kylie Minogue, Eva Mendes, obviously David Beckham, all these people. For you, what is next? Aside from learning more practices and techniques, where would you like to see your career going in the future?
That's a very good, deep question. I've basically hit loads of Mount Everest's. Going to the Olympics, that was the one. So I thought that I would get that when I was in my late 40s, but I got it under 30. I was just thinking, wow, I was addicted to making this happen, and it happened. And then you kind of have a brain fog. You're thinking, what is next? I've ticked this off the box. I've met my hero, Linford Christie. He was my roomie for a month because of training camps. I'm thinking, wow, I've done it. What can be next? And I think it goes to that point of balance. So it's a balance of having a life. So I'm passionate for my job, but I need to have joy in my life, and I really, and it's not being selfish, because many people will assume that that's being selfish to spend time with yourself and only thinking about you. But I've learnt that when you take time for yourself and kind of do a self-reflection of what you've achieved, that's when you have the light bulb moments, and that's what led to me being in an ice bath. I was able to have that light bulb moment saying, I must write a book. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it. So it's that tunnel vision again, that addiction, that I'm going to do all I can to make this happen, and it happens. But to answer your question even more, I just want to help more people out, because that's more important. Because I saw a pattern in private practice is that everyone works so hard all their life to pay a mortgage for a house. And they're saying, when I reach the age of retirement, that's when I'm going to have joy. That's when I'm going to travel the world or do anything that they loved doing when they were young. And it's really sad that they reach that age of retirement, and that's when they get ill, because it was that silent killer of stress, or that 1 out of 10 that's now a 9 out of 10, and like they have in their head that it's irreversible, that life is over, and that leads to depression, or that leads to other things going wrong in their life. So I want to be that person that would always talk for the rest of my life that start now. Don't be hard on yourself. Do something for like you, because that's what life's about. Because if you do something for you, it will actually make you better at all the other things that you want to be better at in your life. So I want people to take a step backwards and think about them more. I think that's my calling now, because I've honestly achieved everything I set out to do as an osteopath, and I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for doing that. If I told myself when I was 16 years of age, when I knew that I wasn't going to be an athlete, that I would treat so many amazing people, travel the world, and to be an author, a Sunday Times bestseller, like I would be laughing at you, you know? Like, it's just nuts. But it just goes back to having good people around you and kind of protecting your energy. I think energy is one of the biggest things. We don't need to have an update every day so we can recharge and just live in the moment. I think many people are not living in the moment, in the present time. And when you do that, you wake up from that deep sleep. We don't become zombies anymore. Because have you noticed, like, because I've had that at times, that we are too busy and we're like zombies. We aren't thinking straight. We're like, like, I've got to wake up in the morning. I've got to go to that work. Oh no, like, I don't have time to do this because I've got to go to that sleep. So it's getting that balance and not being hard on ourselves. Taking breaks, even if it's just a minute break. At least it's a break. Something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So I want to tell this to as many people as possible.
I think it's such an important topic, and I'm really glad that a lot of what we talked about really comes back down to that finding balance in your life. I did something very interesting last week. I took myself away from my schedule for 2 days straight, and I took myself to a random cabin in the middle of Norfolk in this forest, and it was like a beautiful lush forest. There was no Wi-Fi, no mobile phones, I wasn't listening to anything. I wasn't reading anything. I was literally just there in my thoughts, and I did a couple of walks, and that was about it. And that clarity, I mean, it was a very, privileged position for me to be in, to even be able to do that for 2 days and just completely switch off. But that immersion in nothingness was like super, super beneficial for me, and unlocked a lot of thoughts. And so I want to lean into that as much as possible, even in short snippets every day for 60 seconds, like you're saying, even if it is just for 60 seconds. I think, it's achievable for a lot of people. So that's a wonderful sort of way to sort of give people some hope on how they can feel better physically as well. I was going to ask actually,
but the things though,
go on.
Yeah, that's a natural thing. Like it's so crazy that we think it's natural to have a phone in our hands, or to like have loads of screen time during the day, or to like be in a car in rush hour rushing to like get back home. We're always on a rush. Everyone like it's a norm now, and it's really sad. Like I'm sure thousands of years ago, people were doing this, like just admiring the nature. You know, that's normal, and we need to do it more.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was going to ask a cheeky question. So, if you could treat
Yep.
any other person, any person that you admire today, who I mean, you've got a huge list already, but who's left on the hit list? Who's top of the hit list?
Man, you are answering the right questions, man. Asking the right questions. Oh man, I don't know. So there's people who I can't tell the world who I see.
Okay.
Which I would love to, but I can't. And you're thinking, wow, this is amazing. Do you know? I don't know. That's like you have stunned me with a good question. I'll tell you something. So I've done most of the American sports, but I haven't treated an NBA player.
Oh.
So I've treated NFL players, and of course track and field players.
Yeah.
Track and field athletes. But I've never actually treated an NBA player. I think that would be good because I'm a massive basketball fan. Oh, and I haven't even done a tennis player. I haven't done a tennis player.
There you go.
Whoa, oh, hold on. I must treat you now so I can tick that off the box. Yes. But the new joy in my life is treating film stars, like action films and things like so I've done some DC films and Marvel films, and I love all that stuff. Are you like an action hero fan?
I've definitely watched Marvel.
Is it you?
I would say I'm not like I wouldn't be able to reel off all the characters from the DC Marvel worlds and stuff, like, you know, Green Lantern, all the rest of it, but I know the main characters, and I do enjoy those. Yeah.
What's your thing then? Are you a Star Wars guy or a Trekkie?
You know what? I'm into sort of I'm into like documentaries. Like I love and short films. Here. Short films.
Yeah.
The one that I watched recently was one on the GameStop saga. So there was an arbitrage of retail investing.
Yeah.
Did you see that? It was incredible. I couldn't believe it. It was. I
haven't seen it, but I would love to watch that.
Brilliant! Yeah. It's really good. I'm learning about the financial.
What's that documentary? So there was a one Quincy Jones one. I watched that so many times. I'm not sure if you've seen that.
I haven't seen that one. No, I'll watch that
documentary. That was amazing. But there's one with Dr. Dre. Like, my memory's bad. There's one with Dr. Dre and the other guy,
Jimmy Iovine. Yeah.
Man,
that
gets
doco.
Me.
Amazing.
That gets me every time. I'm thinking, wow, I'm so inspired. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I've got this energy. I want to achieve something big, you know. But the most recent one I watched, I'm not sure if you're a football fan, but I watched the Luis Figo.
I haven't watched that yet. Yeah, it's on my list.
Yeah, that's crazy because he was a Barcelona player.
Yes.
And he went from Barcelona to Real Madrid.
I remember watching that match live. I remember watching that when they were throwing like bottles at him live, and they had to pause the. That was a mad football game. Yeah,
but I knew that he was a great player because I remember in Euro 2000 when he scored that amazing goal against England. But I didn't know that he won the Ballon d'Or.
Oh, I didn't realize
that year. It was amazing. Yeah, he was the best player on the planet at that moment of time. But yeah, so I like all those documentaries. Love it.
Yeah. On the note about NBA players, you know, it's interesting that you haven't ventured down that route just yet. I'm sure it will happen and you'll manifest it for sure. But I remember reading or hearing about a quote from LeBron James about how he spends $1 million on his body every single year, and that unlocked a lot of things for other NBA players. They're like, hold on. The world's best player is spending this amount of money on his body. I'm not spending anywhere near that amount on my body. Maybe I should be investing that much in my self-care as well. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that hyper recovery and you know, that sort of like maintenance of someone's career through looking after themselves physically and mentally a lot more. So that'll
Yeah.
be interesting for you.
But it has happened now. It has happened now because I've gone from treating a team of players to be so selective in who I see now, because so I still have that winning mentality to be part of a team. So there's a couple of premiership players, because things are changing now. Even in the last 1 or 2 years, premiership players are buying an ice bath in their house. They're buying a sauna. They've got a cryotherapy chamber in their houses, and they're hiring someone such as myself that I would see them once or twice a week. So things are slowly changing in a way, because there's a buzz about health now, and people are investing, because it was unheard of many years ago for people to invest in their own health, but people are doing that more now. So I'm really happy about that.
Absolutely. I think there's definitely going to be a revolution, even though, I mean, we've got to be sort of cognizant of the fact that there is a cost of living crisis, and things are tough, and people, are struggling to afford even healthy food. But in light of this, I think instead of spending money on technology and all these other sort of entertainment elements within the house, like amazing TV and furniture and all the rest of it, I think people are going to be looking a lot more inwards and how they can invest in their health. And even if it is like investing in a beautiful book like those and actually putting those things into action, or like a massage gun, or some of the other sort of gadgets you can have to improve your well-being at home and physically as well, I think that's definitely going to be a trend that's going to persist. And actually on that note, so
I think that's
sorry.
Sorry, you are definitely right, because to look after yourself, you don't need to splash the cash, and I do understand that people are going through a hard time, and so I think of things that they can do that doesn't cost money. So I do tell people that buy a massage table or use a bed in your house and start treating each other, because that's free and you can get that on tap if both parties agree. So there's different ways, or you can be like, this is the quiet area in the house, I'm going to go and meditate. And when we talk about meditation, you don't need to cross your legs and start humming, even though humming has loads of qualities. That's another topic to talk about another time. But there are you can sit in silence or somewhere in your house, and that can be your quiet space, and that can be so effective. So I just want to get that across, that you don't need to spend money to have a relaxation or something effective that can promote your health and wellness.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like those tips actually in the book about how you can do self-massage, whether it's your hands, your shoulders, your necks. I've actually got impingement right now. I've had impingement for the last couple of months and stuff. It's getting better. I'm doing some exercises and stuff, but it's very painful. But even just like the massage I do, a couple of times a day has definitely been helpful. And I haven't actually. I need to see a therapist. So I might have to hit you up.
Oh boy, listen, I'm getting excited. Okay, another athlete on the list. Need to get him ready to full-time tennis. Need to sort out that shoulder impingement. Need to throw him in the ice bath for 7 days a week.
Fantastic.
Oh dear.
Listen, James, this has been so helpful, and it's been a pleasure to chat with you and sit down. We'll have to do this in person at some point in the future as well.
100%, it'd be great.
And you should show me some of the techniques to loosen the buttocks and improve my posture. But this is brilliant.
The spiky foam roller.
And the spiky foam roller, exactly. This is fab. Thank you so much, James. Really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.